What up, everybody? I am Lou, and today we're going to be talking about how to download files from Sharepoint. So I actually been getting a lot of views on my Sharepoint Python videos. So man, appreciate the love. Thanks for watching. I'm hoping that the videos I'm making are helping somebody out. If they are, man, give me thumbs up. Follow me. Much appreciated, man. Much appreciated for real. Um, but I got a request about, hey, can you create a video on how to download from SharePoint? I believe they're having some issues downloading, so I'm gonna go ahead and walk you through, and let's go through the process. It's really not that hard. It's pretty simple. Um, I have a code base that I probably could use on my other SharePoint projects. Only reason I'm not adding on to that is because I know we may have some new viewers that haven't seen the other videos. So I'm kind of just going to start fresh from the beginning. But nevertheless, though, if you see my other videos, the process is pretty much the same. There's only some small tweaks. Again, just method for downloading and then, of course, writing it out. But let's go ahead and walk through it and let's get started. Again, we're going to be using Python SharePlump. So if you don't have it, go ahead and get that installed. Also, those of you who are new, get familiar with virtual environments. What you do not want to do is just start installing everything on your main interpreter that you have on your desktop. You want to create virtual environments, not on your main environment. It'll save you a lot of headaches. So again, you're not familiar with it, go get familiar with virtual environments. But let's go ahead and get started. So first thing I'm going to do, just like my other projects, I'm going to create a Sharepoint file. I'm going to create a config Json file. And I'm going to create a project file. And again, you'll see in a minute how everything will come together. So let's start off with the JSON config file. So this is ultimately how it's going to look. Now, that's how I have mine set up. Again, you don't have to do it the way I did. Ideally, again, in a production environment, you would have variable file .env, or you would have just variables on your actual server that you would end up calling that will bring in these configurations. But nevertheless, for the purpose of what we're doing, I have the config file. Username is going to be your email. For again, everything's Office 365. I'm not doing any on-prem, just Office 365. Username, password, your URL. So you should have some sort of domain, even if you don't have an actual domain, but you just kind of use in the Microsoft generated version. You still have something there, whatever you created. Then of course you will have your site with the same thing, your domain, and then over here it says name. It's the name of the actual site. Like I'll show you an example, just so for those of you who may not be familiar. Let's see. So I have, as you could tell, I have my goappet.net, which is my domain, sharepoint.com sites, and then Development. So Development is my actual site. You could have many sites. I call this Development because I use this site for testing, just like what I'm doing now with these videos, right? So I can show you. And then of course you have your doc library. So again, let me kind of go back. As you can tell, it's a shared document, then whatever that document is. If you go to SharePoint, you click Docs, you can kind of tell on the URL, see where it says Shared Documents, and that's kind of where this starts, Shared Documents, and then you have the actual name of the document. So in this case, for me, it's called YouTube. Yours may be called something else, right? So that's kind of it's like the starting point of your doc. on which folder you're going to be working with. And then eventually from there, you may dig into subfolders, right? Like I have one that's called 2020, but you may have more folders within there. And we'll see how that operates in a minute. For me, I actually have my config file with my actual credentials, but I'm gonna have to add that on the side because again, I don't want to show my credentials. So let me do that right quick. All right. So now my config is ready. The next thing I'm gonna do is my Sharepoint file. So let's go ahead and get everything imported that we need. So again, you need SharePlump and the package installed on your environment. So it will be SharePlump. In this case, it will be import site and Office 365. SharePlump sites, import the version, on which version we're going to be dealing with. All right. Okay, so now that I have that piece, we also need to import in our JSON and OS. Because again, we're reading a JSON file, so we need that as well. All right. So the next thing that we're gonna do is gonna read JSON file, right? So that's the first thing we're gonna do. Let's go ahead and read the file. You know what? I missed a step. So before we read the file, let's go ahead and set two variables first. We're gonna set the root directory. Pass. Directory name OS pass, and then this would be file. The next one would be our config pass. This will be root. Oops, I missed another /. So this would be root, and then it would be config.json. Because again, that's this file over here. All right, so that gives me my config pass. Again, maybe I did it more complicated than I should. You could just hard code in the pass yourself, but I noticed it becomes a pain in the ass sometimes, especially when files move, or you move this project to another folder, but now it doesn't work because you hard coded it to some other folder. So I'm not a big fan of that. So it would be config file, config JSON load, config file. Then it's going to be config Sharepoint, because that's our first key that we have in our JSON file, which is Sharepoint. So all right, so that's it. We got that read. Now we're gonna assign a few variables as well. So the next variable that we're gonna assign is gonna be username, password, SharePoint URL, SharePoint site, SharePoint doc. All right. And this is going to be config username, config password, config, what was it, URL, config site, config doc library. All right, again, this is all stuff that's coming from our configuration file. Maybe you want to skip it, just hard code it in here. By all means, that's totally fine. Whatever works for you, right? So next thing is we're gonna create a class. We're gonna call this Sharepoint, and the first method that we're gonna create on here will be our authentication. So next we're gonna do auth cookies, Office 365, and we're doing Sharepoint URL, username. Is that it right? There it goes. It is right. Username, password, and then I'm gonna do a get cookies, and that's it. That will give me my authentication cookies back that's needed to authenticate. The next is going to be connecting to the site. So it's site, Sharepoint site. The version. All right, so there's different versions in this case, right? Sharepoint. I'm dealing with V365 because again, that's Office 365, so that's what I'm working with. So that's the version that I'm dealing with. Auth cookies, and then we're gonna return site. All right, so this is the first method. The second one we're gonna do is called connect folder. All right, so what we're doing here is whenever we authenticate to SharePoint, since we're gonna be downloading a file, now we need to specify, well, what folder we're gonna connect to. Like it doesn't know where we're connecting to unless we tell it, and that's kind of where the connect folder comes in. Like we got to connect to a folder, so we authenticate first, connect to the folder second, then once we're in that folder, then we can specify the actual file that we want to download, or so on. So again, it's Friday. Love having me a whiskey every once in a while. So that's my drink of choice today. Whiskey on the rocks. There's not much rocks no more, pretty much melted, but nevertheless, it's good. Let's see. What am I doing? Connect. Yep, I'm gonna connect the folder. So let's just create a auth site. We're gonna call this auth method to authenticate. All right. So the next thing is we need to build our directory paths. So we specified up here on top a SharePoint directory folder that we're focusing on. If that's not the case for you, you're gonna be bouncing around from folder to folder to different folders, then I would recommend this is not needed for you. This is something that you would just determine when you pass in your parameter. Now for me, I'm only dealing with one starting folder, and then of course files and subfolders. But if you're dealing with from the highest hierarchy, of SharePoint directories, and you're gonna be bouncing around different files, folders, then yeah, this is not needed in your config file. You would just specify it in here in your, your folder name. You would, kind of specify, for example, so like for a folder name, it would be something like, let me kind of go back to my, where is it at? Dude, where's my SharePoint? I was just showing y'all right now. There it goes. Okay, so like right here, right? This is your starting point. Let me go back. So let's say if I have more folders, I'm gonna call another one. It's not a testing. Okay, so now I got 2 folders. If you're gonna be working with one folder, you could do what I did. If you're gonna be bouncing around different places, then that is where, don't even specify this. Ultimately, what you're gonna have to do is specify it in this folder name. It's gonna be something like, in my case, it will be YouTube. It will be like, yeah, YouTube. I think I call it 2020. And then of course you have any other subfolders beyond that. It could be, June. I don't know, right? But it will be, that's how it would look, right? You would just have to specify that, if that's the case. In my case, though, I did specify this starting point up here. So really, I just have to specify whatever folder is in. And in my case, I only have one subfolder, which is 2020. And then of course I have files in there. So let's go ahead and continue on. So we're going to have to build a directory path. Damn it, why the hell is it doing that, man? I knew it, man. It did that earlier, and I thought I messed up. But that's not the case here. So it would be SharePoint Docs, then of course the folder name, right? So just to make sure it makes sense, SharePoint Docs, for me, it's called YouTube. Then the folder name is 2020. Again, if that's not the case for you, you don't need to do this piece. You're fine. Then it's going to be folder, all site, folders, SharePoint directory, and then we're going to return folder. So again, we have to do this is our authentication object. We're going to authenticate. We're going to use a folder function, SharePlump, and then of course we're specifying the actual folder that we're going to be accessing, right? Like to the lowest point. So in my case, it's 2 folders, YouTube, 2020, are the 2 folders. I'm going to return that object back. So the final piece is going to be, we're going to create a method that's called download folder. And here we're going to end up taking, let's see, the file name and the folder name. Okay, we're going to pass in those 2 parameters, file name and folder name. Okay, and then we're going to create a object from the connect folder. Right, we're going to call this connect folder. We're going to pass in the folder name. Again, this is one of our parameters. This takes a parameter, and we're actually just passing what we're getting here to here. Okay. And then what I'm going to do here is going to be, I'm going to call this, you know what, let's just do a return. We're going to return folder get file file name. So again, just hopefully this makes sense. This connect folder when I call this method, it's actually authenticating for me, right? So it's running this piece of code, it's authenticating. I'm specifying the directory path that I want to go to, the lowest level where whatever my files are going to be at. And then I get back my folder object of whatever folder I'm at. Once I'm inside I got my folder object, I'm doing a get file function, and all I have to do is specify the file name. That's it. It's going to return me back that file. So this is it for SharePoint. Now the next step here is we're going to have to go ahead and import this SharePoint file. Oops. Yep. So we're going to do SharePoint. For now, I'm going to just do this is going to be set file name. So let me call this file name. And let's take a look at what we actually have right now that we could, download pretty much. So if I go to SharePoint, I'm going to go to YouTube 2020. So we have two files. We have this sample PDF file and Excel file. So let's download the sample PDF file. Right, so that's the actual name, sample PDF. The next thing is we're going to set the folder name. So again, if I go back, I specified YouTube already in my configuration. Okay, so this SharePoint doc, I already kind of specified. But again, let's say I did not do that. Then ultimately for me, since I'm dealing with YouTube 2020, it would be something like YouTube 2020, right? That's ultimately what it will be. But because I did specify it, I don't need to do that. I would just call it 2020. I already specified the main folder. All I'm doing here is specifying the other folder. If I had subfolders like the month, June, that's what I would end up doing. But in my case, I only have the year. So then the next piece is going to be get file. So I'm going to call this file SharePoint download folder. Did I call it folder? What the hell? My bad. Download file, because that's what we're doing. We're not downloading folders, we're downloading files. Alright, so my mistake. Download file. I'm going to specify file name and then folder name. Again, file name, folder name. That's what we have over here. File name, folder name, right? So now that I have that, the next thing is save file. Okay, so I'm going to pass in my object, which is my file. It's a binary. Again, I'm dealing with a binary here because PDF and Excel. If you're dealing with plain text file, then you don't need, just write it. But I'm dealing with binary files, so I'm writing a binary. So that's what WB stands for. Right. Oops, my bad. I'm told you wrong. This where it says open file, this is actually going to be the file name. Oops. All right. So the reason why is this is the actual name. The open function. It's actually going to create a file for me based off this name. Now, because I'm downloading a file from SharePoint, I want to, at least I'm thinking, right? You want to keep the same name. Maybe you don't, but if you do, use the same file name. Whatever file name that you're specifying to download, you're going to use the same file name as well to open, because that's what you're going to, that's what you're going to generate. Now, what I'm going to write is going to be this object right here, this file object. And then I'm going to do a save. And that's it, man. Like, we could run it and we're done. So I'm gonna go ahead and run it. What should happen, we should see a PDF file get generated. We'll see it dropped in. So I'm not specifying the file anywhere specifically in the directory. In your case, you can. In my case, you're just gonna load it under the same project. But yeah, let's go see. So, oops. I'm gonna run Python project. Damn it, got an error message. So what happened here? Oh, you know what? I think I know why. It's not username. I believe it's user. Yep, that's what it is. It's user. Yep. Okay, so that was my mistake. Oops, my bad. I got it wrong again. So it's not save. It's already writing it. It's close. So you could tell I did write it already over here, and I could probably open it. Let me just go to the folder. So here goes right here, right? Here's my folder where I'm working out of. And here's the PDF document that is open. So let's run it again because I know it errored out. And again, this should have been closed, not saved. Because I mean, technically, I mean, it's not really saving a file. What it's doing is actually just creating a file and it's writing to it. It's not like I modified it and then I want to save it. So that's kind of more so my mistake. But let me just go ahead and delete. And let's run it again. And now we should see, there we go, yep. Was no error, everything worked fine. So again, it's really not that hard when you think about it. Again, I kind of just broke it down in samples. Ideally, if you're gonna make this more programmatic, probably because you have a list, maybe you have some kind of Excel sheet, or maybe you have just a list of files, or I mean, that's where you start adding some additional logic to be able to kind of go through and download every file, or download specific files, or whatever. A good scenario for this would be if there's data that's being saved out in SharePoint, and you know people are adding data to it because it's on SharePoint. You got multiple people sharing it, but maybe you need it for your analysis when you're running some kind of monthly report. Well, you know the name of it, and even if it changes by years, you could make it dynamic, you know, for every year or even by months. You know, it's crawls into the right folder and boom, grabs the right file. Okay, you know the file name, and then there you go. Once you download it, save it locally, you could start extracting some data. You know, do whatever you want. Again, there are so many different reasons to do it. But again, this was a request from somebody. I really hope that you see the video. I'm hoping that it helps you out. If it does, again, give me a thumbs up. You know, I'm working on building my channel. Kind of talked about it a little bit, trying to figure out like what's the best approach to kind of tackle my channel. And I think for, you know, there's a few languages that I know, but I think I'm gonna stick with Python, man. I like Python a lot. It is my main language, and I think I could bring some value and help y'all out. So if y'all have any ideas, y'all want me to make a video or something in Python, send me a message, man. You know, leave a comment. And just like somebody requested for this video, I may make a video over your request as well. And man, whatever I can do to help y'all out, man. Again, I'm trying to, you know, my main purpose here is to kind of help y'all out if I can in any way. So all I ask in return, man, is you kind of just show some love back, hit that thumbs up, follow me, and you know, hopefully we can help each other out, man. Appreciate it for watching. Thanks for the love and the support. Again, leave your comments, man. Let me know what you want, and I will put effort to make a video. Peace.